There are two kinds of people who really understand the road. That's RVers and Cowboys. Both live by weather windows, fuel stops, and a deep respect for momentum and margin. Both know that when things go wrong, they don't do it politely or on schedule. And both carry their lives with them mile after mile. Today's conversation sits right at that intersection. Not about gear, not about brands, but about experience, safety, and what happens when two road cultures stop comparing notes and start sharing them. Hey there, fellow wanderers, and welcome back to the Wandering Gypsy RV Life Podcast, where we talk travel, RV education, a few breakdowns, and a whole lot of belly laughs while rolling smooth down America's back roads. If you're new here, I'm your host, Stan Cromlish, full-time storyteller. Today's guest is someone who truly understands life measured in miles and weather windows. Chick Wilfong has spent decades roping, hauling, and living on the road, moving through seasons, towns, and long stretches of highway that don't care much about plans. This isn't a conversation about gear or brands. It's about experience, awareness, and what the road teaches you when you stay out there long enough. Hey, Chick, welcome to the Wandering Gypsy RV Life Podcast. I am so glad to have you.
Thank you, Stan. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here.
So, I've told you we're going to talk about how RVers travel down the road and also how cowboys and cowgirls travel down the road. But first and foremost, let's have a little bit of your background, Chick.
I was raised into a ranching and rodeo background. I mean, my dad was fifth generation rancher, and he roped and rode broncs, and so he rodeoed, and it just kind of was in my blood. I was basically raised in the back seat of a truck with my mom and dad going to rodeos. Dad ran a ranch for my grandfather right out of college at Donaldsonville, Georgia, right in the southwest corner of Georgia. And mom was, of course, out here in Texas, and she came down there, and they married, and I came along, and they rodeoed, went to all those Florida rodeos up and down the eastern seaboard, and it was something I was raised into. But as a kid coming up in Georgia, we didn't do a lot of that, and we wound up moving to back to Texas. And when we did, of course, all of a sudden there was a whole lot more opportunities for a young guy to get to rope and rodeo. So I kind of fell in love with it, and it became an obsession and then a passion, and it became a living for several years, and I still rope to this day. In association with your podcast, I mean, I've done it almost every way you can do it, pulling horses up and down the road. Well, I've done it with a living quarters horse trailer. I've done it with a camper on the truck and a bumper pull trailer. I've done it with a bus and a bumper pull. I've done it with a semi with basically a toter home. I've done it every
Okay.
kind of way you can do it, and there's different challenges to everything. But it's amazing to me how closely knit the horse people world and the RV world are because of how much time we spend in those things.
Right. I'm a full-time RVer, Chick. I go up
Mhm.
and down the road. I've got a 36-foot motorhome. It's gas.
Yeah.
The only time I hate it is when I have to get into one of those QTs or truck stops to get gas, and the four-wheelers are blocking my pump.
Oh, yeah, I understand. It's kind of like having diesel pickups. they're they're
Yes,
always in the way. If what, I guess the Flying J's are the ones that have an RV pump that sits off to its side that has gas in it. Isn't that right? And
that they
they make it a
do, and
lot
that's the
easier.
ones I they do. That's the ones I try to use because getting into a Love's or a TA or one of the other ones, they put you right there with all the four wheelers, and it makes it hard. But I wouldn't trade this lifestyle for anything. Um, so quick question: how many tires have you blown out in all your travels?
Um, we don't have time for me to count that high, but in all my travel, now I'm running. I told you the other day I'm running a really big, really heavy trailer, and it's a 3 axle trailer, so I've got 6 tires on the ground just on that trailer all the time. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I have certainly aged and matured a little bit. So about a year and a half to 2 years, depending on how the tires are wearing, depending on what kind of shape they're in, I'll go on and
Mm-hmm.
change them. I mean, I try to avoid that now. As heavy as these rigs are now, you blow a tire, you tear something up. I mean, it gets these aluminum fenders on these aluminum trailers. You blow one and it just tears it all to pieces. And you're not just looking at a tire; you're looking at a $750 to $1,000 fender to go along with it. And so, how many have I blown out? Thousands, thousands. No
Right.
kidding.
Right. So you blow one out on this rig, and it gets western in a hurry, and it gets
Yeah.
expensive in a
Yes,
hurry.
it does.
Um, but one of the things I want to talk about is what RVers can learn from cowboys and cowgirls going up and down the road, and then we'll turn this around and what cowboys and cowgirls can learn from RVers, because we're all going up and down the road in all kinds of weather.
I think the first thing, if you'll let me begin there, the first thing I see is that as cowboys and cowgirls, we've always got a lot of truck. We've got a lot of truck on the road. I see, and of course, I live in Texas, and we're not far. In fact, I can see I-20 from where I'm sitting right now, and I see so many of these half-ton pickups overloaded with a big bumper pull RV. I would caution. I see so many wrecks and so many problems. That's the one thing, at least, that the cowboys and cowgirls have down is by golly, we're gonna have enough truck. And some of us prefer a single rear wheel 1 ton. Some of us prefer a dually 1 ton. Some of us prefer a 3/4 ton. On a smaller trailer. First thing I would want everybody to know is, by golly, have enough truck. If you don't have enough truck, it's too dangerous to play this game. Um, Next, I would say
I'll second
maintenance.
that.
Yeah, yeah. Next I'd say maintenance. Maintenance is a big deal. See, we're running. Not only are we do we have the living quarters, and quite honestly, the people that build our living quarters horse trailers, they must have learned everything they know from the people that build the RVs you guys go in all the time. And to clarify something, I've got 2 travel trailers. One I use for work job sites. One that I have at home that young lady that helps us in the barn stays in, and of course we maintain all of them. But I see a lot. The good things out of those systems arrive into these living quarters trailers as they're built every year, and by golly, those systems are tougher than I thought they'd be. When I first got into a living quarters trailer, or first bought an RV, or first got in a motor home, bus, what have you, I thought, man, this thing, there's so many moving parts, this thing will never last. And those systems are tough if you'll just do some maintenance. Um, I honestly, I have a mobile RV guy that is great at what he does, and we have a working relationship. And he knows when I call, come a running. But we try to keep our maintenance up to date. That said, I think if a person maintains them, I think if you have enough truck, watch for little things, the little indicators that you have an issue going on. That those are the first things I would tell you I've learned about going up and down the highway, because we're trying to maintain a horse section of a trailer where, those things can go wrong on it. Plus, we've got the RV. Kind of like I've got a toter home that's a Peterbilt. So I have all the things
Hmm.
that can go wrong with a Peterbilt and all the things that can go wrong with an RV in it mixed together. And, you just have to stay on top of that maintenance, I think.
I second that because maintenance to me is one of the things that I preach in my education. Yet a little bit of background on me. Back in the '90s, I rode bucking horses, so I went up and down the road cowboying. That's where I met Jerry Todd and others. And I look back and I say I think how lucky I was with 4 ball tires and a whole lot of prayer.
Well, yeah, I mean, I could get into some of the ways I went to the rodeos, and all I'd really wind up with is a don't do that. Just don't do that. I think the thing to say is if and it's always been an afford type of thing for me. I go in as good a rig as I can afford to go in. I think these living quarters horse trailers and the big nice RVs, all those things, I think it's the type of thing if you can't afford enough truck to pull an RV with, if you can't afford the maintenance and the issues that are going to pop up with the living quarters and horse rigs, please stay with what you can maintain. Stay with what you can take care of. Put your chips together, and hey, when you get to where you can, welcome to our world. But understand, it takes some upkeep and it takes some maintenance. But I would rather somebody be safe than do the wrong thing.
Amen. Because I know that I make sure that I maintain this rig. And I think I told you on Monday, I stepped out of the shower and saw water casually running across the floor in my kitchen.
Sure, sure.
And so I spent all day Monday trying to trace that leak. And I've got it band aided until I can get to Florida this weekend. And I've got a friend of mine who's going to fix it. But these things are going up and down the road. They're a moving earthquake. They're probably a Richter 7 earthquake. And stuff bounces, stuff moves, stuff makes a
Well,
mess.
and everything. It doesn't matter if it's the type of rig I go in, the type of rig you go in. If they're not built with enough expansion, I mean, construction business taught me this. Things have got to be able to expand, and those RVs, that's what's happening. Bumps in the road, twists and turns, all kinds of things. You're over there in Georgia. If you start my way, you're going to go through 3 different states with 3 different types of highways, and some of them aren't going to be great. And
I
it's
I-10 down in Louisiana is terrible, chick.
well, it's not a bad deal if you don't, if you've got plenty of Dramamine for motion sickness. But other than that, it's not much fun.
It is not much fun in my rig, I can tell you that, because I go down,
Oh,
even though I've got all the springs and all the shocks and everything right, it's still whoop, whoop, whoop.
absolutely. And
But
we hate it because it jolts those horses. But if it's jolting those horses, you can bet it's jolting those living quarters too. And that expansion, I had one the other day in my big living quarters horse trailer. Same type deal. I noticed a leak running across the floor. Well, it's in that little chase up under the shower, and those things are not built really easy to get to anyway. As you well know. And
as I
and
figured out, I got 3.5 inches and I could only use one hand.
yeah, yeah, and for me it takes both hands, and I need 3.5 feet to work on plumbing. So I get it 100%.
Right. So, I know we're not talking brands or anything, but how do you protect yourself going up and down the road? Do you use items like tire pressure monitoring systems on your tires?
You asked me that the other day about those monitoring systems. Now my Peterbilt has them.
Y-
These
Yep.
living quarters trailers are not equipped with them. If they are, they're later model than what I'm pulling. These new ones,
Mm-hmm.
Stan, a new living quarters horse trailer costs more than my house in 45 acres. These things they come with it all now.
Well,
Much like I mean, I see the fancy RVs, I've got a friend that's done very well in the oil and gas business, and he has a bus that is, I mean, top of the line everywhere, and it's a heck of almost $1 million bus. So I understand that these systems are getting better all the time, but I've not even seen a tire monitoring system on a living quarters trailer. I do see it on some toter homes and some motor homes, but I have not seen it on the trailers.
So my motorhome didn't come with a tire pressure monitoring system, but I did add an aftermarket version of that so that I could watch my tires. There are aftermarkets out there, but you know, I kind of feel like that is a level of just being prepared for what can happen going up and down the road.
Oh, I do too, and of course, a step further is in those vehicles where air is plentiful, or you can get your hands on it, or so many of us now pulling these living quarters trailers, and I'm sure RVers with the heavy fifth wheel trailers are putting airbags in our trucks anyway. And if you've got a compressor already built on, and you could have a monitoring system on it that would fill or deflate or warn you when something wasn't right, like for instance, my Peterbilt does, man. I mean, that's a great advantage in my opinion because you can get ahead of problems. You can even see an indicator, on hub temperature. I mean, it's just there's so many different things there that helps with. But no, sir, we do not have them on actual living quarters horse trailers right now.
Right. And, that's going to what we were talking about. That's maybe one of the areas that those folks pulling horse trailers and living quarters and all of that could learn from RVers, that sort of
100%,
thing.
100%, because
That sort of thing.
we're no different than a lot of people, but when we get our clean clothes on and we got everything loaded and we're headed out to the rodeo or we're headed out, say we're going to drive to Las Vegas and we're going to be 2 days on the road going out there because we have to stop and take care of horses. Well, we want to get in the truck in our shorts and our tennis shoes, and we want to just drive comfortable. We really don't want to be on our hands and knees changing a flat in the on the side of the road somewhere if we can help it. So yes, absolutely, that is something we can learn from you guys that do it every day.
Yeah. Anything else, you really touched on the thing that I see as well. All these folks pulling these travel trailers and fifth wheels with the F-150 or the Ram 1500. You really
Yes.
need enough truck if you're going to haul.
You really do, especially I see, and I'm just where I live. I'm just east of all the oil field stuff that's going on. Of course, there won't be anybody on your podcast that hasn't seen or heard about the Landman series that Taylor Sheridan has out, and they're filming all over. So we're kind of right on the edge of that stuff. But I see so many guys headed out, out west that don't have enough truck, or I pass untold amounts of them that didn't have enough truck and they got the fishtailing and the truck's on its side and the RV's torn all to pieces. To me, those trailers they're just not weighted proportionally anyway. They build those trailers to fit a floor plan or they build them to fit convenience. They do not build them to pull, the best. Now they pull good. Don't get me wrong. I think they pull great. They pull a little heavy, but they're tongue heavy enough that dadgummit, a 1500 or a F-150 just is not enough truck. That if I was going to shop for an RV and I'm driving a 1500 or an F-150 or a Tahoe or a Suburban that's a 1500, whatever, first thing I'm doing is I'm going truck shopping because that's the first thing I'm going to have if I want my family to stay safe.
So, Chick, in my book, Rolling Smooth, I talk about this. You you pick the trailer you want first. Pick your trailer first. Then you go buy the truck that will handle that trailer or that fifth wheel.
Absolutely. I get going from that direction because, that way you have your specs on your trailer and you know what size truck you need, whether whether a 3/4 ton, a 2500 or F-250 will work for you versus having to go to the 3500 or the 350. Us living in the
Right.
ranching world and pulling big stock trailers or pulling big flatbed trailers all the time, it's just that much more handy for us just to use those trucks to hook to our living quarters horse trailers. So most of the time we're all in 3,500 or 350 dualies anyway. But I
Or the
understand if you're not coming
4,500s.
from. Yes, sir, and they've come a long way with those 450s and those 4,500s. Before I would have told you, look, that thing's a tractor. Be careful because it will pass everything but a fuel station. And they have got them where they're riding better, where they're getting better mileage. I mean, the first one of those 450s I ever got in was assigned to me when I worked for a friend of mine up in Kansas City. And that thing had a 15-gallon fuel tank on it, and I couldn't get basically out of sight in it. And road rough, all those things. Now, this was early 450s, but now they've come so far. I mean, if you really wanna be overkill with it, or you really have a great big trailer that you want to pull, I recommend them. And in fact, I've got a guy that sponsors me that does those conversions on them. He does it on
Hmm.
450s, 350s, whatever, and he does an awesome job. And he's seeing more of a demand for the 450s now than the 350s. So that the market may be shifting that way. I don't know. I know that heavier brakes, heavier hubs, heavier bearings, all that stuff, you can never be wrong with having plenty. I'm kind of an overkill type of fella.
So am I. So am I. I am overkill, chick. So one of the other things I talk about, like I said, I've got a 36-foot Class A motorhome gas, but about twice a year I take it over a cat scale to weigh it because there's a gross vehicular weight that you got to stay under, and for this it's 24,500 pounds. If you're like me, you accumulate a lot of stuff going up and down the road.
Life will accumulate stuff. I mean, if you can't pass by the little spoons from every state that they sell in those tourist traps, I couldn't help it. I had to say that, Stan. Um,
I saw that
but yeah, I
commercial.
mean,
There was a with the spoon
that's right.
collection. Yes, I saw that commercial.
That's right. It's out there. But I, I think that it's important to remember, and I hate to be the Debbie Downer of this, but yes, do what is legal. Go over some scales, see what you're weighing, see what all's going on, and you could just realize that life has collected enough stuff that you got a little heavy. That said, um, you know, be safe. Follow the GVWs on a vehicle. When the DOT pulls you over, if they've gone particular enough to pull over an RVer in a motorhome, they're going to write you a ticket for something anyway. I'm sorry.
Right,
It's just the way these guys are.
right.
But,
They
you know, if they get out their scales and can get you, then it gets extraordinarily expensive that quick. So, yes, I 100% go over the scales. Uh, you know, Along with that, I hate to see our state start to require people to have a CDL to drive their Class A motorhome up down the road. And I think that one thing that will really help these state troopers that are seeing these rigs is if we really go the extra mile to stay, riding on good tires, to stay well maintained, to stay looking like we treat them like we care because we do. I think that will help in the long run.
100% it'll help. My rig's a 16, 2016, and it's now 10 years old, chick. But it looks like it's 2022 or 2023 because I've kept it maintained. That's what, and you've seen it in RV parks. You've seen some of the rigs that people have.
Yeah.
And it gives good RVers and good cowboys and cowgirls a bad rap at times, quite frankly.
It does, if I had one piece of advice about that is as it tears up, fix it, because before long that list is overwhelming. If you just let something go like that, it can get away from you, and that's what happens more often than not when you see one of these RVs or one of these horse trailers or whatever that's just run down. It just got away from them, and people can be overwhelmed by all the things it takes to fix. It's these things are moving targets. They're moving vehicles, and you're right. They're a rolling earthquake, and there will be things that tear up. That's just the way it is.
Exactly. And for me, about once a year, I take the Tiffin to Red Bay, Alabama, which is the manufacturing plant and the service epicenter for Tiffin, and
Mhm.
get all the maintenance done once a year. I keep up with the oil changes. I keep up with this. I've got 4 slides in this thing, and slides are notorious for getting out of whack and off track.
Yeah, I've seen it happen myself. I had just it's a brand of trailers, but it's one of the better brands. I had a Bloomer that had a track slide instead of a hydraulic one, and that thing, if it got a little out of kilter, it had to go get somewhere to an RV repair guy, not a horse trailer repair guy, an RV repair guy, because they've seen those slides, and when something's out of kilter and something's out, the track's not running straight. I don't care what you do, you're going to have it fixed and fixed by somebody that knows what they're doing.
Exactly. And, you know, that begs this question, Chick, and that is, do cowboys and cowgirls understand living quarters? The living quarters is an RV, or do they just treat it as it's a utilitarian piece of equipment for them?
It's both. Anymore, it is such an investment that you can't just treat it like it's a utilitarian, just another tool. Um, the main reason we travel like that is because we want to be close to our horses. If we didn't want to be close to our horses wherever they're at overnight, we can pull a lot cheaper trailer with a lot less truck and put our horse in a stall overnight, and we can go get a motel room. But I think more and more we're leaning toward, before when we'd buy those living quarters trailers, a lot of times an RV outfit would tell us, "Oh, we don't work on horse trailers," or a horse trailer outfit would say, "Oh, we don't know anything about that. That's RV problem." Now, especially out around where I live, you're seeing more and more of them say, "Oh yeah, you bet. We understand that system because that system, our manufacturer designed it. The people that manufacture your horse trailer is just using it. So yes, sir. And we're learning how to be more compatible from the manufacturer standpoint, as from when they build those trailers, we buy them. Well, John Q. Public in Phoenix, Arizona, that works on them all the time, every day, he's not seeing something new on that hydraulic system when it pulls in. He knows that system. He knows our hydraulic jack system. He knows our hydraulic slide system. He knows our air conditioning systems. He knows, you name the system, he knows it because they've shared that information on how that stuff is built, how it's maintained, and how it's used.
Right, right. Um, I'm sure you've pulled into a rodeo grounds or a roping grounds and plugged in. I don't know if you've got a 50 amp or a 30 amp on your living quarters, but you plug
It's a
in and
30.
you can't even run the air conditioner.
Yeah, a lot of times. A lot of times, there's been but as a whole, I think the people that not only that build our horse trailers are getting better with what they do, but I think the
Hmm.
people that design these rodeo grounds and put these plug-ins and the stalls and all that stuff, because there's so many of us, now I don't enter a place that I don't think about, okay, stalls and RVs. Where am I going to plug in? Where am I going to put my horses? And most of the venues that we go to anymore, they have them. And if not, nearly all of our trailers, if I went to shopping for a used living quarters trailer right now, I would not buy one unless it had an on board generator, an onboard gen set where you could run up and down the highway.
Right,
We're
right.
getting better with all of it. But yes, I've pulled in a lot of times that the how strong or how low ampage the poles were. They just wouldn't run me. Didn't matter if it was a 30 amp plug and I'm running a 30 amp. They just didn't. They did not do it correctly, and so it's trickle charging down, and it's going to burn my everything I use. It's going to cause my breakers to blow. You know.
It's either going to cause your breakers to blow or you're going to burn something up, which is,
Yeah.
something. Even these old campgrounds that I've pulled into, before I do anything, I have a little tester that I plug in to
Yeah. Amp
make
meter.
sure there's not an open ground or something
You
screwy
bet.
going on.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really do. I mean, I don't know how many of those old grounds you see anymore like that, but I think people are getting better with the facilities. I think they're getting better with our systems and what they can and can't handle. But you're still going to see that one in a million. So definitely, I think those testers are. I think they're paramount. Because if I go somewhere new that I've never been before, and I'm a little concerned about it, I'll use my tester.
Amen. I use my tester and then I plug in my surge protector, which will cut the RV off if there's a problem. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, that's I use as much. I try to protect as much as I can on my rig with some of these aftermarket products. But and that's just how I was taught, how I was educated. Is if you protect it, you keep it well maintained. If you don't protect it, you could be replacing a whole bunch of stuff.
Well, sure, and that's the reason you're running an '06 model that's in great shape too, is because I mean it's the longevity of your investment. And if you don't protect it every direction, I mean it's funny. My living quarters trailer that I have now is an '08. The one I had before that was an '06.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah, they've got some age on them, but they've been well maintained and well taken care of, and I have no problem running them up and down the highway if they've been well maintained. So I think that it always is going to go back to how much you protect it and how well you maintain it.
Exactly, and 100%. How well you maintain it, how well you protect it, and how well you make sure that you are safe in what you're going up and down the road. So, I'm heading out of here tomorrow to go to Ocala, Florida, and it's
Yeah.
350 miles. But I used to, before I figured out how to get everything right and maintained and keep everything going back in my rodeo days, I'm not even concerned about tomorrow going 350 miles because I know I'm prepared.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean it's different. I say this a lot, but hope is not a tactic.
Absolutely not. Hope is not a. One of my managers years ago said, "Hope is not a plan." At all.
No. It's not a good way to go, and it's not a good way to have your family all boxed up in one vehicle and have problems. It's just not a good way
Right.
to go.
Right. We've all seen accidents. We all know that accidents can happen. But as much as you can prevent defensive driving, I mean, you go up and down the road every day, you probably see crazy people just like I do.
Well, that's because there's more and more of them every day. But yeah, I had this discussion yesterday. I'll be as brief as I can about this, but to put a long story short, my fiance Candace was wanting to learn how to drive my 18 wheeler. So we were on a county road, and she was shifting gears and trying to drive it, and of course panicking and all those kinds of things. What I kept telling her is when you're in one of these rigs now, give yourself a lot of time. The reason you see so many wrecks, so many problems, is that people don't back off other people. They're so busy thinking about what kind of a hurry they're in, or they'll wheel around one of these big rigs, and I don't care if it's an 18 wheeler or if it's one of these big RVs. And we're giving, the car in front of us a lot of room, and a car comes around us, whips in front of us, and all of a sudden we've lost that. We have no room. and always be the more courteous driver if you're gonna be hauling these things. And as rodeo cowboys, I don't have to tell you, Stan. I mean, we get in them boogers and we run 85, 90 miles an hour trying to get to the next one, but we do not. We're always careful about our horses because we don't want to be too tight with somebody else. We get out in that hammer lane and we try to stay away from other people. But I think that,
Amen.
that anyone watching this that's in one of those little cars that thinks, oh, it's safe just to whip over in front of one of those big trucks or one of those RVs. No, it is not. You just ensured that you put a vehicle three times of the weight of yours is most definitely in a spot to hit you and most definitely cannot stop as fast as you can. I think that's one of the
Absolutely
most
not.
important things we could say. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, I know that to go, and I don't run 85, 90 in this rig. I run 65. And yes, I've had a lot of people give me a one finger salute because I'm running
Oh
65.
yeah. Oh yeah.
But
Because you're running 65 and they run up on you. Yeah, I get it.
yep, yep. But I want to, the tow bar, I'm towing a car. So the tow bar is rated at 65 miles an hour, towing my car. So I want to maintain the specs. I want to stay inside the specs. And I know from
True, dude.
65 to 0, it takes a quarter mile from 65 to 0
Yep.
when I slam on the brake.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And if you go up in speed, it gets longer. If you go up in weight, it gets longer. I mean, to me, always knowing that you've given yourself more than enough room is that's just good safe driving.
That is defensive driving, and I'm always constantly looking for an out if something happens. I want to have an out
Yeah,
if something. I can't
that's how
preach
we
that
were
enough.
raised. Yeah, that's one of the first things Daddy taught us. You be watching and you be seeing where you would go if it happens. Where is the best place to go? And I'm old enough now that I I'm watching for it all the time. Doesn't matter what I'm driving. And we've been in some spots. Once at Vegas, once at Phoenix, once in Dallas Fort Worth just the other day, where you go over a hill and I'm back far enough from the traffic, not a problem. But we go over a rise and all of a sudden everything is dead still. And
Mhm.
yeah, and
Mhm.
I'm looking where I'm going, and I just go out around them and get stopped out on the shoulder. When the traffic catches up with me, I ease back over and go on. And Candace will say, "Michael, how in the world did you see that coming? I just knew we were going to hit them." I said, "Always know where your out is. Always know what it
Right.
is." And
Right.
particularly over there where you're at today, there's so many of those little narrow roads in Georgia with a big deep ditch on each side. I mean, when it's like that, you have just got to give yourself a lot of room.
Right. Right. And tomorrow morning when I get up and I head out, I got to get on Highway 94, which is about postage stamp wide. Um, the out is you just go ahead and hit a tree. That's the out because you can't do anything else on that narrow road. Thankfully, it's only about 9 miles until I get on 231 and can get on. That's a nice 4-lane U.S. highway. But I'm always looking for my outs.
Yeah,
I'm always making sure I'm prepared for the trip. I you know run a checklist. You know that may be something that cowboys and cowgirls can learn when they're going up and down the road. Run a checklist. I've got the slides in. I've got the water set. I've got everything off. The horses are tied properly. Make sure if you go through your checklist, and then by the time you pull out, everything's taken care of.
I think we all do. Have a mental checklist, if not a physical checklist that we go through before we hit the road. But age and maturity helps a lot, Stan. I mean, the older we get, the better we are at checking all those things. I mean, younger people. I mean, heck, we've got 18-year-old kids in this part of the country running up and down the highway with, $250,000 living quarters trailers behind them in a dually truck. I mean, I understand that those young people that see us talking about this. Look, y'all, slow it down about everything about towing horses, towing an RV, driving an RV, everything about all this heavy stuff. Slow it down and make sure. Don't just think you have something done before you hit the road. And if I could stress anything, like, I mean, your horse's safety depends on it. When it comes to the people that are in RV, that they love that hobby, their family depends on it. So, what's more important to you than that?
Absolutely. I've been bitten myself for not following my complete checklist. So we all have. And,
Oh yeah, we
even
all
at
get in a
my
hurry.
age, right, right. And I have caught myself the last time it happened, I left a step stool in Dodge City. You know, little thing, little thing,
Knowing Dodge City
but
like I do, it may still be sitting there, Stan.
it may be at the campsite at the Gunsmoke RV park. It may very well be. But no, I had a problem that morning. I had a slide that wouldn't come in, and it was pouring rain, one of those West Kansas thunderstorms. And I got in a hurry once I got the slide in, got everything hooked up, and just left. But now, when something like that happens to me, what I do is mentally say, slow down. You've still got plenty of time. Slow down. Get
Yep.
everything right before you pull out.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely. I mean,
we all get in panics at times. I mean, even us old rodeo cowboys, we panic. I mean, whether we'd like to admit it or not, we get in a hurry and we panic when stuff doesn't go right, or we've got to make
sure.
that
And and
performance at
and
9 o'clock the next morning.
yeah. I mean, it's nobody likes to be uncomfortable. Nobody likes to be put in a spot where you can just feel the stress creeping up on you. But we've all been there. We all know that sometimes things just don't go right. And we've all, especially us men, have all bullheaded through something when we could have just slowed down and taken our time, and it would have worked so much better. But
Amen.
with these rigs, with these rigs, I think that's the key. Slow down.
It it ain't worth your life at all. So I agree, chick. Slow down. Well, anything else we want to cover, chick?
Stan, I'm here for your pleasure. So anything else you'd like to cover, I'd be glad to. But you know what? I think we covered the most important points of what I see in our side of things.
Mm-hmm. We'll cut this out real quick because you've frozen a couple of times, chick.
Well, I've got full bars, and I don't know. I don't know if it's you frozen me looking at you. So I don't know what the heck.
Hey, it's recorded pretty good, I think.
Well, good. I'm sorry about that.
Hey, no problem. It's probably my internet connection because it's just, technology, chick. Technology.
Exactly. It is. It is.
Well, I appreciate your time, sir. Appreciate everything you're doing. By the way, I want to say I love your morning devotionals. Your devotional with on Monday about troubles hit me
Yes, sir.
perfectly. Hit me perfectly to
Well,
thank him for my troubles because I was having that water leak in the shower, and you know I was upset, angry, frustrated. You know how you get. But then
I
I
do.
heard your I heard your message, and I said, and as I was on my way to Lowe's, I heard your message, and that just made the day so much better, and it made the problem so much easier to handle.
Well, I'm thrilled to hear that, Stan. You may be the only person that's listened to it, but I appreciate it. I really do. If it helps one person, then it was worth doing.
Well, it's helped me, and I appreciate it. I catch you every morning when you do it, Chick. Um,
Thank you, sir.
but but I, I want to give you the opportunity to plug what you're doing on social media and what you're doing all around.
Well, I am somewhat of a, and believe me, I backed up into it. I didn't just start with that goal, but I'm somewhat of a social media influencer, and um, I've had some changes come along in my life. It started telling wild, dirty jokes and telling old stories that just were old good stories, but um, I've my walk has narrowed quite a bit, and I'm a lot closer to God than I've ever been, and I try to just share my experiences through reading a daily devotional. Now, whether it's Jesus Calling or Jesus Listens or whatever, and we, I try to discuss the Bible some, and I do nothing that's not Bible based, and I try to just share a little bit of life experience. Mainly, if you want to know the truth, Stan, the person that gets the most out of that is me. I'm held accountable to do that for the good Lord. He showed up for me in a lot of big, good ways. And now I'm held accountable by the public that like to watch my stuff. So every day, sometime during the day, I'll get my devotional out and I'll just sit and calm it down and spend a little time with the good Lord and spend a little time with my public, and man, it's been great for me as well as it's been good for some. I hear wonderful stories from people that are really enjoying it, and I don't think any of us cannot benefit from a little closer walk with the good Lord. And you can find me on Facebook at Chick Wilfong or the Wild West with Chick Wilfong. You can find me on YouTube at Chick Wilfong. You can find me on TikTok at Chick Wilfong. You can find me on Instagram at Chick Wilfong. I mean, I'm in all those places. So please come join if you're watching Stan's podcast. I'd love to have you. And Stan, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining us. And this episode will be out Saturday, the 17th is when it will go out. Um, it'll
Very
go out a
good.
week from Saturday, and I will tag you in it when I post it on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. But I want to thank everybody for riding along with me. What I try to do in this podcast is share stories, share RV trials, tribulations, crossover with cowboys and cowgirls, and really try to educate the public on what this RV lifestyle is all about. I'm not a I'm not a big influencer yet, but I try and I believe in RV education, because if we're educated, we don't make the mistakes of those who don't know. And when I got started, I didn't know what I didn't know, but I learned real quick.
It costs a lot to get to live like a carny, doesn't it?
It does. It does. It costs a lot to go up and down the road. And the circus never ends, Chick. To quote
No, it
Sid
doesn't. No, it
MacFarlane.
doesn't.
Well,
That's right.
thank you, sir.
No problem. No problem at all.
I appreciate you coming on. Thanks for riding along with me today. If you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow wanderer. That's how this campfire keeps growing. You can find more stories, photos, videos, and all things Wandering Gypsy over at wanderinggypsyrvlife.com. And if you'd like some behind the scenes extras, including that special video with Ned Ledoux, head over to Patreon and join my Wandering Gypsy RV Life Campfire Circle. That's where the deeper stories and bonus content live. Before I sign off, I want to give a quick shout out to a few folks who help keep this podcast rolling. First up, Techno RV. They've been my go-to for RV gear, from water filtration and electrical upgrades to safety tech, GPS, and everything in between. You can check out the products I trust using my affiliate link at technorv.com. Trust me, they'll help you adventure more and worry less. To my Patreon community, you're the heart of the Wandering Gypsy RV Life Campfire Circle. Your support keeps the wheels turning and the stories coming. If you want video episodes, bonus stories, and behind the scenes content, I'd love to have you join us. And finally, a shout out to my good friend, Doug Simcox, and his podcast, Beyond the Chutes. If you love rodeo history, cowboy storytelling, and the legends of the arena, you need to give it a listen. Doug brings the past to life in a way that makes you feel like you're standing right there behind the bucking chutes. Until next time, keep your rig rolling smooth, keep your coffee hot, and remember, sometimes the best roads are the ones the GPS won't even show you. And remember again that not all who wander are lost.